listeners. Welcome to another episode of Romance Unraveled. I am one of your co hosts, Jacob Bozen.
And I am Paige. Today I have brought my friend Logan with me to tell a story. Logan and I met, gosh, I think like 8 years ago, 7 years ago now. We worked together at Burger King. He was my trusted right hand when I was the general manager, and he's just an all-around great guy. So, Logan, what would you like our listeners to know about you?
Hello, all. As Paige said, I'm Logan. I'm not really interesting right now. I, I'm at a good point in my life to where there's not really much to share currently. Um, but in the past, there's definitely some interesting stuff there that I could share a story about.
Yeah, we're excited about it. I have no idea what this story is even gonna be. So,
I actually don't either, so
oh god. Okay.
it'll be a surprise for everyone, I guess,
Yeah,
except for Logan.
for
I
sure.
I wish it was a surprise. Well, I guess it kind of was. But anyway, I mean, Paige, you do kind of know most of the story. Maybe not any of the recent stuff because what I'm planning to talk about is how my previous relationship has affected me and how it sort of blossomed my new now marriage. So I think I think when my ex broke up with me, I think Paige, I think you were like the like second or third person I called, and I was just like, like I was just so distraught, and I was so um
Yeah, I remember that. That was a rough one. I still remember your ex showing up at Burger King while I was running a shift and asking about you too. Like if it's the same one I'm thinking of. It's who you were with when I was still working at Far West, right?
yeah.
Okay. Yep, then I know. Yep. All right. That
What
should
should
answer
we
it.
what should we call this person?
We can call him Michael.
Okay, Michael it is.
I was gonna say Richard, but that works too.
Yeah, that was a fun time. So we were we had gone through this sort of dry spell, I guess, where there was just like we were fighting a lot and everything was just, upside down almost. I had even talked to a couple of my family members and friends about like whether or not I wanted to actually stay in the relationship with him.
What were you fighting about generally? Was it like more like were they real fights or was it over stupid stuff?
A mix of both,
Okay.
mostly stupid stuff.
Do you
Um,
have an example of one?
like so we had different jobs and he would come home from his job and I would be off or whatever. And he would have like asked me, "Oh, can you do the dishes?" And I would be like, "Yeah, sure." But then like you get your day off kind of vibes, and you're just mellow and chill, and you forget what you're doing, and then the time goes by, and then he would get home and he would like, "Why aren't these damn dishes done?" And but he'd be like really intense about it, almost like frightening in a way. And so yeah, and it was just stuff like that, just the dishes and the cleaning. And even though I had been working at Burger King, which Paige knows is I don't think there's a worse job in the world than
No,
working as a manager at Burger King.
it was god awful.
um and so I all that was happening, and you're getting millions of text messages from your group chat from work. And then your partner comes home and he's mad about the dishes. Oh, okay. Well, I'm dealing with one of my crew members who called in because they got hit by a car or something, or because they just didn't want to work and they're a kid.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it really kind of just it was going downhill. I didn't want to see it, but I did. So I broke kind of I guess I would call it a cardinal rule of dating is a red flag, I guess, is when you kind of go through your partner's phone. Um,
Oh,
I did that, and because I was like, we hadn't done anything sexual for it felt like months at the time. And so I'm like, maybe he's cheating on me, or I don't know. So I was going through, but we were
And
kind of in
how old were you at this time? How old was he?
how was I? So I was probably like 24,
Okay.
23, 24, around there, maybe younger, 22. And he wasn't, but we were in an kind of an open relationship anyway. But
Oh dear.
yeah, and
Don't get me started, but let's move along. Let's move along.
yeah, well, we were in an open relationship because I lived in Idaho and he lived in Utah. And so we were like, okay, let's see what works, what doesn't. And open relationships can be healthy if you have the right boundaries and you respect your partner's boundaries. And basically what happened is he didn't respect my boundaries. And
That's what happens in those kinds of relationships, but let's keep going.
yeah, yeah. Um, Especially when you're with somebody who you don't have that level of trust with, that you can rely on and have that dependency on. And but that's not even why we broke up. So I'm going through his phone, and I found out that he was talking to his friend who lived in Wisconsin about how all these things that I had done. Like there was this one time I got pulled over on my way to work. I think Paige might remember this day. I got pulled over on my way to work and I didn't have insurance on my car. So the cop uh, towed my car and left me stranded in the middle of nowhere, Utah, on my way
Oh,
to on my way to our
yep,
Burger King.
I remember that.
And but he had complained to his friend instead of talking to me about it, which I didn't know that upset him because he wasn't talking to me about it. He wasn't saying anything about it. He had talked to him about how I was dumb and I was like making stupid decisions, and he was so mad at me and he didn't know what he was gonna do. And then I kept going through, and then I got to this point where he was gonna where he was talking about breaking up with me. And when you're with somebody who's your soulmate or who you felt like was your soulmate, and you just see, I think I'm gonna break up with Logan today. It's I don't know that it broke me in a way.
So this was a
Well,
text that you saw.
Yeah, he was texting his friend, his gamer friend that he met on Call of Duty, I think, or Grand Theft Auto, something. I don't know.
I bet that was really hard to see.
Oh yeah, well, I acted irrationally a bit. I might have well, I didn't do anything angry. I just kind of, at that point I recognized how I should have acted different, but I just basically grabbed all my stuff and or what I could, and I took it in the car. I took the dog, and that was the big thing for him. Not that I had left him, but that I took the dog. And I just went back to Idaho, and I was just depressed for months. And I know sometimes people might think that love or is some kind of like uh Taylor Swift as an example. She writes songs about her breakups and her happy times in relationships, but it's like when a person breaks you like that, it's something else. I don't recommend.
Yeah.
yeah,
So when you, I guess, grabbed all your stuff and you were leaving, was he like, what are you doing? What was that conversation like?
Well, I was so mad that I'd blocked him on my phone. And
ergo why he showed up at Burger King.
yeah. Because I just didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to, I was trying to process, we were together for like 5 years at that point. So um I was trying to, process having the reality and the life that we built together just suddenly crushed.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess you could say I broke up with him, but I broke up with him because he was going to break up with me.
So you never had a conversation like you so you blocked him and you never like talked about it?
Well, we did, yeah. There came a point where we talked it out. We even talked about getting back together at some point, but I should have known better, and I didn't because I was so you know love struck, and I was so into him that I didn't want to like hear what people were telling me about he doesn't want to be with you. I don't know why, you're holding out hope and hanging on to this false hope that he's going to get back with you. Um, but and eventually, they were right because he had told me, he wanted like a month or 2 months to determine whether or not he was gonna want to get back together with me or not, or and that should have been my first kind of uh flag because it's not a love isn't rocket science. You either want to be with me or you don't. Like, there's no, I guess
You know,
there are some situations that are, more complex than that, but it's really that simple is you either want to be with me or you don't. And I should have recognized that at the time and, kind of just been like, okay, he doesn't want to be with me. Let's, you know, move on from that process.
I do want to point out, like, just quick side note here. I feel like that is a really weird common occurrence in like our generation now that you break up and it's, oh, well, give me a couple of months to see if I still want to be with you or not. Because my ex did the same thing to me. And it was
Yeah,
like,
I
give
remember.
me 3 or 4 months. And then when I tried to have a respectful conversation about it, that,
It's
like, I don't
because
know.
people have to go fill up their shopping carts and see if there's something better out there.
Oh, that's exactly what happened to, that's what exactly what my ex did. Um, I mean, while I was waiting for him to kind of answer, once he had given me his answer, like literally, I would maybe a week later after that, he's sharing on his social media that he is like in a relationship with somebody, or we had actually agreed to become friends, at that because, we had to been together for 5 years and we had similar interests and discussions and all that. And I was okay with that. Um, and I shouldn't have been, but we live and we grow. So we'll fast forward a little bit, and it's not really that much of a time jump, but fast forwarding, we're friends, occasionally talking here and there. Something in Marvel happened or something in Star Wars happened, and we talk about it a little bit. And then I kind of went through this kind of hoe phase where I was just kind of I wasn't sleeping around, but I was kind of being a flirt with everybody, and I was just kind of I hooked up a couple times, a hoe phase, but in the midst of my hoe phase, I wasn't expecting, my husband now. I just I didn't mean to fall in love with him. Uh I thought we were just gonna be like friends and stuff, and that, we set up these meetings, and he just completely turned my world upside down. And he really showed me not just what love is, but what the type of love I deserve is. Um, I had never like there would be times where we were dating. Um, he would just like message me in the morning and just be like, "Oh, I'm so happy that I get to be in a relationship with you, and I'm so happy that we're together." And I'm like, "That's so nice. This is a nice change. Why didn't anyone tell me about this before?"
For sure. It's like a rarity.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like another thing that I had never experienced before is somebody being so in love with me that they cry, and it was common, and I don't know if it's um a common thing among because my husband is Hispanic.
Okay, no, that's totally common. That's how my ex was. He would cry and I didn't ever understand it. Thought it was weird, but no, it's a thing for Hispanic people for sure.
Yeah, they're very emotional, very passionate, and I was like, I should have gone for a Mexican before. yeah, he, like there would be times where we didn't see each other for a couple of days, and then he'd come over and he'd immediately just be like, "I'm so happy to see you," and he'd just start crying. I'm like, "Stop."
Yeah, yep, it's the same. I remember it being the exact same. And I was like, get a grip.
But it was like it was nice too because it was being treated the way you deserve to be treated, or having somebody who recognizes that you're you for you, and not just being in love with the good parts of me, but the bad parts of me as well. Because I was in the middle of my hoe phase when I met him, and I still wasn't over my ex, and I had told him that too. I was like, well, I mean, I was, but I wasn't over how everything ended and everything. But he, yeah, he showed me just through his actions. Like, I'll give you another example of like my ex. So when we were together, I was still in college. I was going to community college, and I was trying to get my associate's degree, and I was failing my classes a lot, and tuition's expensive. And so I was just wasting all this money, and I wasn't making these really good decisions about finances. And my ex, he didn't, he wasn't supportive. He wasn't, oh, how can I help you uh pass your class, or how can I help you, you know, pay for tuition, or anything like that. Which, when you're together at 5 years, you know, and you have all that stuff entangled, finances were one of those things that we just never we he never wanted to entangle them, and it didn't quite make sense to me. But now looking back, it's like I was financially irresponsible, so I can kind of understand why. But I digress. um Being in, trying to get your degree, and not having that support of, even just offering to like help me study or something, or like you see in some cartoons or some TV shows, holding up the flashcard, or what's this one? What's um he wouldn't even like do that. Like, I remember telling him, "Oh, I got an F," and I had never gotten an F in a class before, but I failed the class, and I told him that, and he would just be like, "Oh, okay," like it wasn't a big deal.
What? That's really weird to me.
Yeah, and like, so, and with my husband, like, I have my bachelor's degree now, so I went beyond my associates, and I don't think I would have gotten it if I didn't have that support. As an adult, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and and you've had it your whole life, and he was the one who encouraged me to go get like testing for it, and getting the help that is available to people with ADHD. And that really, if he hadn't have done that, I would have never suspected that. Like I think what happened was I took a psych class or something, and we were going over those things, and I was reading like the symptoms of it, and he was like, this is a lot like you, and I've been wanting to say it for a while, but I just didn't know how. And I'm like, oh, and I was like, okay, well, I wonder what I can do. And then he was like, there's all these resources available. You can let's check to see if Boise State has something. And they did. And I went to the Boise State Health Services, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you definitely have ADHD." And it explained a whole lot about my life. Um, and they were able to, get me the proper medication that and I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? I immediately saw improvements in, my, not just my life or my school life, but also, socially, and like I'm able to like concentrate better, and I was able to graduate because of it. And that's largely because, and I am where I am now because of, the support that I got from my husband that I was never going to get from my ex. And it's like, it's, I wish I had met him sooner.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like he's a good support system for you.
Oh, absolutely. Uh, I I don't think I've ever been happier, honestly. Like, I think there's some I think there's some residual depression maybe left over from, the past relationship I was in. The, I I don't know about other people. I don't want to speak for other people, but I feel like once you get to a depressed point, like I don't think it ever really kind of goes away or heals fully. Like, I mean, I was so bad when my ex and I broke up. I mean, I had to remind myself to eat. Like, I had to remind myself to drink and do things that the neurotypical person might be able to just do on a whim. Like, I had to force myself to be happy, basically, or to show to be happy, and it was exhausting. And I'm not that way anymore, and I don't wish that upon my worst enemy, if feeling that way.
Even our guest last week, was she talked about her first love and how low it knocked her to lose that. I think that's, I mean, at least for me, having experienced it myself, I think isn't there a saying that the first love is always the one that hurts the most, and it'll probably hurt the rest of your life just because that's the first time you've experienced that kind of loss.
I would agree with that, you know. Um, and I'm very lucky to have somebody who doesn't wouldn't even dream of making me feel that way ever again. To not only have the patience to heal me through that past breakup and see and the trauma through it, but also be there, be the support system, and be the loving partner that I always deserved.
But do you think if you hadn't, because I know you said you wished you'd met your husband sooner, um, if you hadn't experienced what you had with Michael, do you think you would have appreciated your husband as much as you would have recognized that love for what it really is with your husband?
I I can agree with that. Um, I've always had lately, well, not just lately, but ever since we broke up, I've kind of had this mentality of, because some people are like, oh well, there's always something that came from the relationship. There's something positive there, but I had always been like, no, I don't. I wish I'd never met him, but now that I'm kind of past it and reflecting on it a bit, it's like, yeah, you're right to say if I hadn't have gone through that experience with Michael, then um I probably wouldn't have been able to recognize the love that I get now and appreciate it more and reciprocate it as well and understand what it means to be healthy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective. I think a lot of people don't realize that you have to have both sides to the story to really recognize the good side. We have to have bad things happen, otherwise we don't know what was good. And I think this is a good example of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If we don't have bad times, we can't appreciate the good.
Yeah. And it's also like being with a partner that does also appreciate going through bad times and wanting to see, like my ex, he wouldn't want to, or it almost felt like he wanted to argue all the time. But with my husband, he just he wants to work it out. He wants to be like, okay, let's sit down, and I don't want to be angry and I don't want to argue. Let's let's work on it, and let's find a way to, so we don't be in this point where we're just arguing. Like, we have, because he works a lot and I work, and you know, you have limited time together, it feels like, when you have your days off. And he's like, let's not spend it arguing. He'd rather spend the day, doing things together, being happy and being relaxed than, arguing over something stupid like the dishes or the laundry or whatever.
Good Lord, find me a woman like that. Shit.
You
Yeah, for real. Oh, well, I'm curious, do you still speak to this Michael, or is he kind of, you've kicked him to the curb totally?
Oh no, yeah. I He decided to kick me to the curb. He we were friends, and we still had some things sort of entangled. And I want to say about a year into my relationship with my husband, there were still some things that were entangled. And I don't know about you or anybody else, but it's kind of weird to have some things entangled with your ex after a year. And it felt weird to me. So like it was a Costco membership.
Oh, I remember this
But
story.
you remember this story and how ridiculous it is. So we had Costco together, and Costco allows you to have a household member or whatever on your account. And so I had messaged him, and I was like, hey, I'm I want to take you, because I was the primary on the account and he was the second. And I was all like, hey, we're not living together, so how about I take you off the Costco membership and put my parents, because we're not living together, whatever, and I don't think you go to Costco anyway. And he really got angry about it for no. It was a Costco membership, like
It's
really, like
the dumbest thing to get mad about.
yeah, like I was like, okay, I mean, I don't know what you want from me. I just don't think we should have this together anymore, because we're not together, or we're not going to be together. So there's no real point in having it. And he accused me of making his life difficult, or continuing to make things difficult for him. And I
Did
was
he
like,
pay you for half of this membership?
he did pay for half of it, yeah.
Oh, okay. It's okay. It's now I can see it. I was gonna say if he didn't pay you and he was just like mooching off of you, then he can go to hell. But he
Right.
did, but it sounds like he paid for half of it.
No, yeah, yeah. He paid for half of it.
Oh, I'd be pissed too. I'm on his side on this one.
But I was just like, hey, I don't want to. We don't need this anymore. So how about we just not? And he wanted me to get off of it and give it to him and make him the primary, and me go get my own. And I was like, well, if I don't think you go to Costco, so
Did you ever think to like let the like I'm assuming you have to pay a membership every year. Did you ever
mhm.
think of like letting it go for the year and then getting him off of the renewal?
Well, that was the thing, it was ready for the renewal, and I was like,
Okay. Okay.
oh, before we pay for it, let's let's talk about it. Like I was willing to talk about it, and I would have been willing to honestly just be like, okay, well, I'll get off it and I'll just go make another one. I don't really care that much. But he had started this fight about it and this argument, even though we weren't together. And I wasn't trying to make his life difficult. I was just trying to, get my own Costco membership and get him off of, or get my parents on mine.
Yeah.
and
Okay. Okay. I'm on your side now.
and
You know, the irony of it is it sounds like your guys' entire relationship, not just like being together, but even just the contact ended like the same way the rest of it did, with a stupid fight.
yeah, yeah, and he was just like, and it, the big deal about our breakup was the fact that I took the dog. And he had said something to me to try to hurt my feelings or something. I don't know why he said that, but he was like, I can't get over you, uh what you did, and taking the dog. And I'm like, okay. And so I just don't think we should be friends anymore. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I hope you have a good life. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sounds like quite the ex that you dealt with. There's many of them out there, I'm sure of it. I've dealt with many, I'm sure Paige has, and you've got one that you just told, so.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know what he's doing now.
Well, okay, Logan. Well, it was great having you on. For our listeners, as always, you can listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts. And then you can follow us on social media. We are Romance Unraveled on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time.